So the Browns have a interesting situation that revolves around three players that play at the same time key roles in this franchise's ability to either win games or to plan to win games. And also three guys who you would have hesitations on giving them long-term contracts, especially right now. And those three guys are David Njoku, Denzel Ward, and Baker Mayfield. Now, these three have been inconsistent for completely different reasons, right? David's been inconsistent when it comes to the amount of time he sees the field. Same thing with Denzel Ward, but his is due to injuries. David is not as much due to injury, even though he lost his 2019 season due to injury. And then you have Baker Mayfield, who you can also say injury, but he's just been inconsistent, right? Like you have no idea whether you want to keep him long term. Even some diehard Baker fans don't know if they want to sign him long term because of the inconsistencies. So that's the situation you're in. And what makes the situation interesting is that the Browns are going to be in an interesting spot with their franchise tags for the next 2 years, because this year it's not as complicated. David Njoku is really the only franchise tag candidate that's going to be a free agent after the year. And you either choose to do that or not. But if you do choose to franchise tag him and kick that can down to next year, then all of a sudden you're going to be looking at an offseason where you might have to keep Baker Mayfield or find a new quarterback. You're thinking about extending Denzel Ward. What's that going to cost? It's going to be expensive for a corner. And also, you would have to extend a tight end. And by the time we get to that year, the money is going to be tight. So either the Browns are going to let a couple of good players walk here with David Njoku and Denzel Ward, or they're going to have to figure it out. Now, again, here's where it gets complicated with the franchise tag for next year. If the Browns, I think their best course of action to handle this whole dilemma is just sign Denzel Ward right now. Just extend him right now. Make the decision on Denzel Ward, right? Either you're going to keep Denzel Ward and you're going to extend him, which I think would be smart, or you're going to get aggressive with Denzel Ward and start putting him in some trade packages to get something out of him. Because if you don't feel like you can get Denzel Ward extended at a number that you feel comfortable with, given his injury history, and some of his injury history, I think he's going to argue is a little bit overblown, right? He's only missed games in the last 2 years because of COVID protocols, if I'm correct on that. I think he might have missed one game or been on the injury report because of something non-COVID related, but it's always been COVID protocols with him, right? You have to assume as the years go on, that's going to go away. And it seems like a guy who, has really figured out his whole injury histories. I mean, he really hasn't been injured that much since 2019. It's really 2018 that gave the impression that he gets injured a ton, where he had like 3 separate injuries where he missed games. This year, it really hasn't been that case, right? The last 2 years with Denzel Ward. And when he's been on the field, he's been phenomenal, right? Like, he's one of the only guys in the entire NFL all year in the Bengals played 21 games this year. They went all the way to the Super Bowl in 21 games. Really only one guy who covered Jamar Chase for the entire game did really good on him, and that was Denzel Ward. Everybody else faltered against that guy. And Denzel Ward, he has a history of being a game-changing, dominant corner who can demand top corner money. But, again, you have that worry. Is he worth it because of the injury? That's where the front office has to make a designation, right? Do you want to keep Denzel Ward or you don't? Is he worth the money or is he not? I'm leaning to me personally. I think Denzel Ward's worth the money. I keep Denzel Ward. I extend him this offseason so I don't have to worry about it next year, right? The less I have to worry about next year, the better. One less guy to franchise tag. Because, again, if you get into a situation, right, let's say best case scenario for the Cleveland Browns, Baker comes out, plays well. Denzel Ward comes out, plays excellent, stays healthy, and you franchise tag David Njoku, and he has a breakout year as the number 1 tight end for the first time in his career, right? So all 3 of those guys that are on the bubble, let's say for the sake of argument, have really good years, and you're sitting there as Andrew Berry in this 2023 offseason, and all of a sudden you have a quarterback who had a good year, but you don't know if you want to extend him. So he's a franchise tag candidate, right? You have a defensive back who had a good year, but you don't know if you want to extend him, franchise tag candidate. And you have David Njoku, who had a good year, but you're not sure if you want to extend him. You're going to have to pick one of these guys to make your life a little bit more easy if things do go your way. And that's why I'm like, if you have to pick one to just extend long-term right now, it would probably be Denzel Ward. I can understand it being David Njoku because the money is going to be less to extend a guy like David Njoku, right? We're probably talking about 3 years, maybe like $20-35 million or somewhere in between that range of $25 to $35 million. And that's what it would take to keep David Njoku on this roster. Whereas Denzel Ward, it's going to be a sizable contract, right? I think, 20 mil is what Marlon Humphrey got. So it's probably going to be around 18-20 mil. I mean, it's a big contract for a corner. This front office seems like they're good at drafting corners. Again, there's reasons for both actions, right? For the Browns to extend Denzel Ward and not to extend Denzel Ward. My thing is, if you have come to the conclusion that you do not want to extend Denzel Ward long term, I think you need to take advantage of having Denzel Ward on your roster when it comes to some of the negotiations that you're going to get into when it comes to trades. Now, this could be for a quarterback or a different player, who knows, but Denzel Ward would be as valuable to a team as at least a second-round pick, if not a first-round pick. I mean, this is a Pro Bowl player, two-time Pro Bowl player, one of the best corners in the league. That's worth a first-round pick, right? So maybe if you're the Browns, you don't want to give up a ton of draft capital and you have the opportunity to get a Russell Wilson, to get maybe Derek Carr, whatever quarterback you want to trade for, right? If you're the Cleveland Browns, Aaron Rodgers, you can throw Denzel Ward into that pile because you don't really have long-term plans for him, right? That's a decision that I feel like needs to be answered or they need to come to right now. I don't think they have the time to wait during the season to see if he can have another healthy year to figure it out with him. Either you want to keep him, you extend him, and you keep him on this team long term, or you don't. And if you don't want to, then you better get something for it, because we have learned from other situations that it's not great to give up good players for nothing. So that's the interesting thing with Denzel Ward. Now let's move this conversation over to Baker Mayfield, because let's live in a world where Baker Mayfield does have a great year. Let's say he wins comeback player of the year, right? Let's say the people on Twitter with Baker Mayfield avatars on their Twitter account, they're right. Baker Mayfield wins comeback player of the year, has a great year. There's still no way in the world the Browns are giving him a 5-year extension after just 1 year, when we know that the pattern with Baker Mayfield has been good year, bad year, good year, bad year, good year, bad year, right? So him having a good year this year doesn't really disprove that pattern. It just kind of confirms it. So if there is any quarterback in the world, if they have a good year this year, that you would want to franchise tag, I mean, that is Baker Mayfield. So the Browns have to keep the franchise if they keep Baker Mayfield on the roster, right? That's the important thing. If they decide that they're going to go forward with Baker Mayfield and that's going to be their starter for this year, they have not found any veteran trades that they like, okay, you have to keep that franchise tag open, because it's just as possible that Baker can have a good year and that forces you into a situation where you might have to extend him because you already used your franchise tag on Denzel Ward. And with Baker, you want to see him put 2 good seasons back-to-back before you give him a long-term deal. Straight up. Like, that's true. You want to see him have 2 good back-to-back seasons. I used to not think that, but living through 4 seasons where 2 have been bad and 2 have been good, I want to see him have 2 good seasons back-to-back before I feel comfortable giving him long-term money. I don't think that's unrealistic for people to ask. So Baker's going to be a franchise tag candidate no matter what he does this upcoming season, which means that you aren't free to franchise tag Denzel Ward or David Njoku. So you have to figure these situations out this year, this offseason, before you can jump to next offseason and just kick that can down the road. But that's just something I've been thinking about. What do you think the Browns are going to do in that situation, right? Let's just live in the best case scenario. Let's say all 3 players have a good 2022 season. but they're all on the last year of their deal, right? David Njoku's on the franchise tag. Hypothetically, Denzel Ward's at the end of his 5th year option. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. You could put yourself in a position where 2 of your top 5 picks from the 2018 draft can just walk away, right? That's not good for nothing. So if you're the Cleveland Browns, I think that's something that would be worth handling right now. So you're not in that position where you have one franchise tag with 3 guys that you probably would want a franchise tag right now. That doesn't mean you give David Njoku like a 5-year deal or Denzel Ward a 5-year deal. Maybe you give him more money short term up front. I don't know what the plan is there, but I'm wondering what the plan is and how the Browns are going to solve that quorum, because that's a interesting one to be in. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.